Steven Spielberg is.
Let's see. He did Jurassic Park, right? And
Yeah, something like that.
yeah, something like that. It's no big deal.
Do you know who Scarlett Johansson is?
Yeah, she did Black Widow and Marvel.
Do you know who Robert Downey Jr. is?
Well, of course I know who Robert Downey Jr. is. He's Iron Man, of course.
Dumb person.
Do you know who Brad Pitt is?
Yes, I know who Brad Pitt is.
Awesome. Now, do you know who Andrew Stanton is?
No, I don't know who that is. Am I supposed to know who he is? Is he like, I don't know.
Do you know who John Cars is?
Who is he?
See a trend here? Why is it that actors, actresses, and directors gain tons of public recognition, but animators do not? Well, the entertainment industry doesn't give nearly as much praise to the individuals who work on animation as they do with big blockbuster stars or directors.
George's movies
don't
have
get me wrong,
soul.
they still get the recognition,
Zootopia.
but not to the full extent as everyone else in the entertainment
Work at,
industry.
and every artist, technician, and manager at Disney Animation who poured your heart and soul into this film, this award belongs to you.
And without this praise being given, the public fails to know these individuals. So you're probably thinking, okay, but why should I care about these people who call themselves animators? And if their work was truly amazing, then they'd get and even deserve that recognition, right? Believe me, you know their works, you know their success, but you don't know their names. They're the people behind the computer, behind the pencil, and behind the bigger picture who capture wonder and wrap it up with a bow for the audience. Animation is a significant medium in the filmmaking industry and continues to revolutionize the art of storytelling. There are several key figures that really push the limits of animation and storytelling, such as Andrew Stanton, who writes, directs, and produces for Pixar. He even gave a TED Talk back in 2012 about the power of storytelling and how it affects people.
We all love stories. We're born for them. Stories affirm who we are. We all want affirmations that our lives have meaning. And nothing does a greater affirmation than when we connect through stories. For me, there's no greater ability than the gift of another human being giving you that feeling. To hold them still just for a brief moment in their day and have them surrender to wonder. When it's tapped, the affirmation of being alive reaches you almost to a cellular level. And when an artist does that to another artist, it's like you're compelled to pass it on.
Or John Lasseter, Pixar's chief creative officer who challenged Hollywood's practical means of storytelling back when Pixar first slowly started to emerge. He was bold with technology and released the first computer-generated animated movie, Toy Story. He pretty much constructed the architect of Pixar's now technological style. Or the lesser-known John Cars, who didn't want to separate 2D from 3D animation, so he questioned the possibility of combining the two. This led computer programmers at the Disney Animation Studios to create Meander. This software allowed 2D animation to move on top of computer animation in a clean manner. Paperman did so well that they used the same software on Patrick Osborne's Feast, which did just as well in the theaters. And the list goes on of people who still contribute to the industry today. So again, why doesn't the public know about them? Let's take a moment to step back and understand animation and what it really is. Walt Disney is the most known individual in animation. He knew the power of the medium and wanted to fully use it. Walt himself had a deep respect for the art of animation and the pioneers who led it to its full potential. On a segment in his show Disneyland, he talks about these individuals in his staff book, The Art of Animation.
In northern Spain, another artist was at work. Note the double pair of legs. Now, if he had been able to alternate these leg positions, as we can with our camera, he would have achieved the miracle of animation.
He discusses how animation is as old as man himself, and how it's able to take storytelling one step further. Walt put everything he knew into animation because he knew it was something truly special. But why was it so special? And what makes it so special? Well, it all goes back to storytelling. There are different types of animation, but they are all woven together by storytelling. As described by Dele Filento and Mike Pan, authors of Game Development, animation is the soul of your characters, literally. Animation comes from anima, which means soul in Latin. You're probably thinking, big deal. Storytelling is used in other forms of entertainment like filmmaking. Well, in animation, storytelling is just a tad bit more important and valued and practiced religiously. Storytelling has a very strong presence in animation. Beyond the lines and sketching, animators consider storytelling an art itself.
And we see the sound traveling up the wires. And we cut to across the deserts and the wasteland, and it gets hit by lightning.
Animation is arguably a difficult craft to master. It takes the knowledge of filmmaking, such as lighting, theme, colors, camera angles, and everything in between, but puts it on paper.
Pointing life and motion to still pictures is as ancient as man himself.
While film focuses on what is on screen, animation pays attention to everything and everyone that occupies the screen. Animators have to construct everything from scratch. Worlds, characters, lighting, texture, even hair. They do it all from scratch. Film doesn't need to put this much tedious attention to detail unless, surprise, they're working on computer-generated animation, or as they call it, CGI. Animation is so tedious and complex because of how much attention and detail need to be put on its characters. Animators focus on movement and body language more than anything else. Animators also depend on creating a realistic character and environment. Their goal is to never distract from the story. When it came to Disney Pixar's Coco, lots of research and detail went into this film, and it definitely showed with audiences. The film was a huge success, despite the public not knowing how much work and effort actually went into Coco. Several people noted that the chords our protagonist Miguel plays were correct, and this gave the creators of Pixar lots of praise.
We actually strapped GoPros onto guitars that our real musicians were playing so that we could shoot tons of reference footage so that the animators could get every last little chord and detail of the strumming correct.
Wow.
I wanted musicians to be able to watch this movie and say, oh my gosh, these characters, they're just animated characters, but they're actually really playing that music.
As always, that attention to detail is so incredible.
Pixar's director of photography, Danielle Feinberg, also explains why Miguel's skills needed to be realistic and believable, and why it was key to the story.
The finger movements, and so we worked really hard to do that, so it really was this believable thing that Miguel was a musician and that was his dream.
Yeah, the attention to detail was really beautiful, I have to say.
Director Lee Unkrich also reveals why he had to put eyes in the skeletons when that usually isn't the case when it comes to your typical skeleton. He explains that eyes are vital to really capturing emotion and needed to take his characters one step further to make them more empathetic. The audience never knew this, but it certainly paid off. Another instance where animators went above and beyond audience expectation was Robert Zemeckis' Who Framed Roger Rabbit. There is a scene in the film where a man bumps his head on a lamp. This is called bumping the lamp. Disney coined this phrase to describe going above and beyond what is expected of animators. They put in the time to shade every cell of Roger to make the light bounce off of him in a realistic manner. This meant focusing on where the light shined and adjusting it with his limbs and his clothing. They thought about this. The audience wasn't expecting this, but the animators put the time in anyways. Take this as a lesson to always bump the lamp in all that you do, because it will be appreciated in the end.
Out of that cuff at any time. No, not at any
For Disney Pixar's Brave, Merida's hair possessed a bit of a challenge for animators. They had to figure out how natural curly hair would move in a realistic manner.
In our movies, hair is a simulated effect. That means no one animates its movement by hand. The way it moves is defined by physics and programmed into the computer. To figure out what hair simulation should look like, we needed to look at real curly hair and see how it worked.
Animators didn't need to put this much time or effort into Merida's hair, but they did because they wanted to ensure that their character would be believable to the fullest. Back in Walt's time, music went hand in hand with animation. Everything was done live. Music gave it that extra touch to enhance the storytelling process.
Organ was used to create the music and sound effects for silent pictures.
Are you ready, Ollie? All right, quiet everybody.
Roll 'em.
In the year of 1928, Walt really set the standard for the animated cartoon. He introduced the technological advancement of sound.
It was also the first public appearance of Mickey Mouse. Audiences were astonished to see drawings apparently making their own sounds.
For me, there's no greater ability than the gift of another human being giving you that feeling. To hold them still just for a brief moment in their day and have them surrender to wonder. When it's tapped, the affirmation of being alive, it reaches you almost to a cellular level. And when an artist does that to another artist, it's like you're compelled to pass it on.
So, what is it about animation that is so compelling? How in the world are its wonders often overlooked? Well, we've seen that storytelling is fundamental in animation, and we've seen how much work actually goes into it. But what makes it so admirable is the fact that so much can come from some abstract concept art. The fact that it captivates and cultivates human emotion through the use of simple lines. Animation is truly a skillful art. You'll come to know that drawing is actually very difficult, yet these individuals make it look effortless. Animation connects audiences everywhere on a global scale. We surrender to its wonder, and for a moment, we forget about our own lives. It's remarkable that we begin to feel so much from something that is beyond flesh and blood. We start to not only feel for the characters, but with the characters.
There. It's okay, Daddy's here. Daddy's got you.
Our inner child is called, and we can't help but answer.
If you look at the impact some of these properties and characters have had on the industry, it's truly a global experience.
So, the next time you watch what you believe is just a cartoon, I challenge you to dig a little deeper, because you will find so much more.
So long, partner.
Oh, hey, Buzz, you haven't